Pacific Rim Uprising has rolled into theaters like a giant robot about to take on a kaiju, and while the continued adventures of the Pentecost family have been met with a mixed reaction from fans, one thing is undeniable. Whatever you think of Uprising, there are some serious WTF questions to be found in this film. Let's break them down. Full spoilers ahead, you have been warned. When we first meet Kaylee Spaney's character Amara, she's built Scrapper, her own mini Jaeger, out of used parts and junk. And even though Scrapper is put out of commission soon after, you just know the cute roly-poly Jaeger will resurface for the final battle, which he totally does. The thing is, that showdown takes place in Tokyo, far away from the Jaeger base in China. A whole show is made about how our heroes have to jury-rig rocket boosters to get the giant robots all the way to Japan in time to stop the invading kaiju. But then, just when the going gets tough, Scrapper is helicoptered in to save the day, and he basically arrives only minutes after the rocket-boosted Jaegers. Making this even more confusing is the fact that Scrapper was presumably located even further away from the Jaeger base to begin with. What can we say, but that's just how Scrapper rolls? Oh, and by the way, how did they get those rocket boosters all set up and deployed in a day, especially considering the dire situation after the base was attacked by the drones? Teamwork. Yeah, let's go with teamwork. Speaking of casualties of war, as the final battle begins, Bern Gorman's character, Dr. Herman Gottlieb, says that all the residents of Tokyo have been moved to underground shelters and are now safe. But out of the vast population of Tokyo, how does he know that, really? What about the people who were sleeping during the attack? Or the people in the hospital? It seems likely that Gypsy Avenger's gravity sling could have probably sucked up a few stragglers while collecting debris to hurl into that super kaiju. Anyway, the good doctor seems to have missed the mark at any rate, because just moments later we see his friend turned enemy Newt is still out and about in the city. Why did we never know Stacker Pentecost had a son? The simplest answer is this is a major plot point retcon, but considering how closely Pacific Rim Uprising hinges on the events of the original, it's retroactively a pretty notable omission in Pacific Rim that Stacker never name-dropped his child once. Jake does mention that his relationship with his father became fraught after he tried to pilot a Jaeger solo and was kicked out of the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps, and then a year later Stacker died saving the world, so the timeline sort of makes sense, but for his father to never mention him once after that to the people he's training or closest with, and to sacrifice himself without so much as second-guessing leaving his son behind, or at least giving him a call goodbye, that's a pretty glaring oversight to ignore. The climactic final battle in Pacific Rim Uprising is a race to Mount Fuji, but not before one final Jaeger vs. Kaiju showdown in a city near the mountain's base. The movie claims that city is Tokyo, but that makes absolutely zero sense. Here's your proof. Let's just say Tokyo, in the present day, is not anywhere near close enough to Mount Fuji that the battle could gracefully move from city to mountain as quickly as it does here. The only possible reasoning that we can think of beyond a massive factual error is that Pacific Rim Uprising takes place in a world where Tokyo is closer to the futuristic Neo-Tokyo we've seen represented in anime and video games, where the city has expanded many miles across Japan. According to an Empire article, the city is now referred to as Mega Tokyo, so this could be the case, but considering the movie never actually establishes that, we're still left scratching our heads. A whole heck of a lot of people die when Newton's kaiju-piloted Jaegers attack the Shatter Dome, which forces Jake and the rest of the cadets to sub in for them. What happened to the rest of the Jaeger pilots? Better yet, was every Jaeger pilot in the world really on that one base in China? Yes, 10 years prior, during the events of the first Pacific Rim, that was the last line of defense against the kaiju, but the PPDC have had a decade to rebuild. It seems like incredibly poor planning to have the world's defense force all in the same place. There really weren't any other international bases around the Pacific Rim, and if there were other pilots, why is it that they left these kids out there to fend for themselves? Those are all of our Pacific Rim Uprising WTF questions. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below, and for more of IGN's Pacific Rim Uprising coverage, make sure to watch our review as well as the cast taking our ultimate LEGO challenge. For coverage of all things involving giant monsters and robots fighting, make sure to like and subscribe to IGN everywhere you like to watch.